When we talk about work-life balance, when we talk about work-life quality, what are some of the things that come to mind? I would like to ask my man, Dan the man, and everything to go ahead and say what comes to mind when you think about work-life quality versus work-life balance. Go ahead, Dan, if you don't mind sharing with us.
I will share what I can. I'll share a little bit. I
Sure
think that
thing.
the ability to recognize when you're starting to sacrifice the things that really matter. Why do you work? You work for the people around you.
Yes, sir.
You should not forsake them by being absent either emotionally or physically
Yes, sir.
because you're trying to do something for them. You got to claw it back
Yes,
and
sir.
basically reclaim the ground that you may be over investing in
Mm,
in what is your day-to-day thing. The day-to-day thing is not life. It's a feature of life. It can't be life. And you can't throw the people that you're doing it for to the side of the road.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love it. I love it. Everybody put in a clap emoji and everything from my man Dan right here. Put him up, put him up, put him up, put him up. So he made some really, really great points, right? So everybody to write this down. Don't think balance, think quality. Okay. Don't think balance, think quality. When I was in the hospital with my son, I had to think about quality, not the balance. Because if I was thinking about balance, then I'm holding on, different types of weight, and I'm pretty much probably going to fall. What do I mean by that? Because at the same time that my son was fighting cancer, my house ended up being up for sale. My business was now in flux. My dance studio was now in flux because guess what? Me being in the hospital with my son caused me to leave work. If that causes me to leave work, then that means pretty much I have to, I have to make some sacrifices. So therefore, I'm thinking about the quality with my son. I'm not worrying about the finances. I'm not worrying about the home. I'm not worrying about any of that stuff. And oftentimes, a lot of people, believe it or not, when they face childhood cancer, they end up in divorce. The family ends up breaking up. Why? Because they're thinking so much about the balance of everything instead of the quality time that they're spending. We're talking about someone's life. We're not talking about any of this other stuff here. And oftentimes, I'm not saying that finances aren't important. Of course they are. I'm not saying that, your house isn't important. Of course it is. I'm not saying your car or anything like that, your bills aren't important. Of course they are. But they have their place, right? They have their place. So what I need you to write down next is I need to prioritize my life. Write that down. I need to prioritize my life. I'm going to give you guys an exercise in the next couple of minutes here. And we're actually going to go through that. It's going to be called the well-being tracker. We're going to go through that in a second here. Okay. So the first step we have, number one, is don't think balance, think quality. Okay. The second thing that we have is I need to prioritize my life. Okay. Now, these are just essential things, right? So inside the hospital room, most people would sit there and say, like, Kenny, well, why aren't you opening up the studio more? Don't you need to pay for the hospital bills? Don't you need to pay for this? Don't you need to pay for that? I do, but for me, I have a different type of thinking. I trust differently. I think differently. I breathe differently. That's just me, right? So inside the hospital room, I said, you know what? I'm going to spend at least 5 days a week inside the hospital room and 2 days at work. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to spend 5 days a week inside the hospital room and 2 days at work. I'm only going to open on Fridays and Sunday afternoons. Okay. That was me. Now, you have to figure out where exactly am I going to spend the quality in my life? Okay. And when I talk about my family, this is super important here. My other three children at the time were staying at the grandmother's house on an air mattress. And I'm thinking about